YouTube was the only way that I'm going to grow this business and get clients. What do I do?
There are two main types of content that do well on YouTube. One does really well getting views and getting likes, and the other does much better actually at building your overall brand positioning. It might not get as many views or likes, but actually turn into more clients and build a bigger business on the back end.
Would you say entrepreneurship and business is the most important thing in your life?
Yes, that's the most important thing that I focused on. So a big mistake some people make is they only create podcast content and they don't have enough solo content that's like showing themselves as an expert. And that difference is the difference between...
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today I am joined with the one and only Mr. Aleric Heck. This is a man who exemplifies what it means to be an online marketer in the best way possible. Aleric has been making content for over a decade now and is very, very, very storied and extremely credible when it comes to creating YouTube content and building businesses around social media and around content. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about life, a little bit about business, and maybe even some AI. Aleric, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Dude, I'm super happy to have you. Just since I didn't cover your accolades and just so the audience is aware, obviously we have your book right here, Video Authority, that's going to be coming out right at the start of 2026 on January 1st. Walk me through a couple of the things that you've done in terms of ad outreach and the other amazing things that you've accomplished so far in your career.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't always love just kind of, bragging about all the different things, but just so that, people are aware and they know. So, basically I started out on YouTube 16 years ago, built one of the largest app review channels, over 600,000 subscribers. Then I got into the ad side a decade ago, and I can tell you that story too, because it's an interesting story, but got into the ad side and have now helped on the YouTube ad side of things, thousands of businesses collectively generate hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue from YouTube ads, which is something I'm really proud of, having made such a big impact and working with such great businesses. And then using those same ad strategies, YouTube ad strategies, YouTube organic strategies, scaled my own business, ad outreach, scaled to 8 figures, landed number 60 on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies in America, was on the Inc. list 3 years in a row.
Congratulations.
And yeah, we've done a lot of other things too, but I'll probably leave it there. And I'm really excited about the book. I've spent the last 3 years working on it, and I'm excited for that to come out.
Yeah, dude, I hope that we can, talk a little bit about what's in the book and what it was like writing the book. And as we get into this conversation, I just want to highlight one of the things I appreciate most about you as a human being is, I think people see you, or like a front end experience of you could be like, oh, this is a technical expert. Like you carry yourself as an operator, someone that, 16 years creating content on YouTube, one of the largest app review channels on YouTube, and then building an ad channel. Like you very much carry yourself as a knowledgeable expert on what it means to create content on YouTube. And then also, you have case studies to prove, and you have a track record of success being a business operator, as a shark, as an entrepreneur, someone that understands the art of the deal and team building and leadership and business dynamics, which is very different than being a technical expert. And you've maintained this this playful and interesting and very academic person as well, or this personality. So I really appreciate when someone is multidimensional, and you have a lot of history to show that. So first and foremost, I'm curious, what's it like running a business at this level? What does it take from you? Is it, 100 hours a week? Is it your whole life? Like, walk me through a day in the life of Aleric.
Oh, that's a great question. So it definitely takes a lot of time. And that's the thing is, like, I love business. I know you can resonate with this. We've had great conversations about this too. But I just love entrepreneurship. It really is like a sport, and diving into it. And it does take a lot of my time. I go in and out of seasons of spending more time. The other thing is also how you weigh that time. So I travel a lot to speak at different events, to attend different events, in addition to, the work that I do, of course, with our clients, the work that I do with my team, which is a lot of what I do now is like managing my team and kind of innovating the next thing. And so there's a variety of different things that I do, and I could probably break that down a little bit more. In terms of putting an exact hour to it, it's not at the 100 hours. At one point it was, especially when I was really building it out, it was basically every waking hour was on the business. And we all go through seasons like that. Right now, I'm not in that exact season. But there is a lot that is focused on the business. So it's definitely, it's definitely more than, it's probably in the 50, 60, sometimes 70 if it's like a week I'm really pushing hours. It also depends on what you're actually including in that number. So, I'll go to events and I'll go and speak at an event, but I also don't like just coming in and then kind of dipping out and leaving. I love actually having conversations with people, seeing if there's ways that I can support people. So if I'm going to speak at an event, I want to be there during the day.
Fully
I want
immersed.
to fully immerse myself. I want to have conversations with different people. That also just shows me what's going on in the world of business. And there's always a really strong, belief that I can get things out of any person has something to teach me, right? And that's why I love having great conversations and just seeing hey, what can I learn, from this person? What can I teach them, and what can I give them? So what value can I share, and what value can I glean from their experiences? And so if I'm going to an event and I'm speaking at an event, I'll be there all day. I'll be networking at night. Do you count that as work or not work? I don't know. I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of it all blends together.
Yes.
Same thing with the types of events. Like if we go to Internet Marketing Party here in Austin, right? Are you counting that as work or not? We're friends as well. We're going and having a lunch. We could be talking about business, but we could also be growing the friendship that we have, right? And so it's things like that I don't really put an hour on it as much anymore.
Right.
But it definitely, if you're going into entrepreneurship, and I think many people are probably already in it, but if they're not, to realize that it does encompass a big portion of your life. It becomes, what you're doing. But for those of us that love the game, it's a great thing.
You got to do it for the love of the game, though. Yeah,
exactly.
Because there is we'll go get lunch and talk about life and talk about business. And in a lot of ways, that is vacation, right?
Yeah.
That's time off.
Yeah.
But it's also, you're still applying and thinking and strategizing around the business. So it's absolutely not like you're going a day without thinking about it.
Exactly.
Would you say entrepreneurship and business is the most important thing in your life?
I would say that, yes, that's the main, most important thing that I focused on. I think I'm growing in other areas too. I know we've talked about that a little bit as well. So I'm continuing to grow in my faith. I'm also growing in, this year is kind of the first year I'm pursuing a relationship as well, and and things like that, and I'm more dating right now. So and ultimately I do want a family, and I do also want to grow my relationship that I have with God and all those different things as well. And I think you get into an area where it's what's the biggest thing that I'm focusing on? It's still business, but I also think that there's multiple facets of different areas. And when you say most important, you run into some issues, because there are things that are very important, that I think sometimes you take for granted, right? Whether it's your health or your faith or, the connections that you have with family and loved ones. That being said, in terms of what you're optimizing for and what you're the most focused on, so not what's the most important, what you're most focused on, I would say I am most focused on business right now, but I also think there's other important areas.
Yeah, there's definitely other pillars of life that are necessary.
Yeah.
And I want to talk more about the cost of doing business when it comes to the consequence of so much focus on one thing, and whether or not it's worth it, and what that journey's been like for you. And also for the people listening and watching this, I want to jump kind of more into the practicals and tacticals of content creation. You're not Jake Paul. You're not a very flashy influencer. And so I do want to take a peek behind the curtain about your life and your relationships and your faith. And I think that's all essential, and we'll touch on that. And also I'd love to, look at the stage and set the stage of making hundreds of millions of dollars for businesses with content on YouTube. I think a lot of people would hear that and expect you to be this super flashy, super, clickbaity, viral, YouTuber, right? Jacksepticeye or PewDiePie, one of these guys, because you come from that era of YouTube. But for people making content on YouTube that are looking to monetize, that say they're running a business, but also creating content, maybe building a personal brand or a brand around their business niche, what's been your approach of are you trying to go viral? Is it the same type of content as Mr. Beast, or is it a completely different mechanism and format to succeed on the platform?
That's a great question. And, and I appreciate that. And one of the things that I see is that there are two main types of content that do well on YouTube. And I also think that one does really well at getting views and getting likes, and the other does, much better actually at building your overall brand positioning. It might not get as many views or likes, but actually turn into more clients and build a bigger business on the back end. And that difference is the difference between entertainment content and educational content. Entertainment content is the Mr. Beast, the Logan Paul, or whatever it happens to be. And, that's a spectacle and that's entertainment. And by the way, I'm not saying there's not a place for that, right? There's, people are going and looking to be entertained. They'll get likes. There'll also be, other ways that they get, rewarded, and here nor there to judge the individual lifestyle that somebody's living. But they're in this entertainment bucket. On the other side, you have education. That's what's going to appeal to people who are business owners, who are looking to grow, not even just business owners, right? So we might be advertising more to a business to business, right? So somebody who's interested in my YouTube support, your Instagram, growth and support. But also there's people for clients of ours that are helping people with weight loss, helping people with, their relationships, helping people with, their overall mindset, whatever it happens to be, right?
Yep.
And so we have clients that are doing all those things. And if they go and they create entertainment-based content, they could get a lot of viewership, but they're not necessarily going to be able to convert those into actual clients. So this is actually a really important note, because the subtitle of my book, so it's Video Authority, but the subtitle is The Art and Science of Converting Viewers into Clients. It's not converting viewers into likes.
Yep.
It's converting viewers into clients. And the thing is, there's those two tracks. If you're optimizing for entertainment, you are optimizing for a totally different thing, and trying to go viral, right? Which sometimes might not even happen. But if it does happen, is it actually reaching the right people that are interested in becoming an ideal client? Or are you looking to build a loyal following of people that are genuinely interested in what it is that you do and wanting to actually pay you for that expertise? And I know we've even had this conversation because it's a similar thing on the Instagram side of things, and so when it comes to YouTube, you really want to focus on that education. That's the key.
I think that we forget that these are called social medias.
Yeah.
And there's a very different thing of going to a play or watching a movie to be entertained, and that was good, and I like the drama, I like the concept or the theme, versus building a social community of people. It's I engage with the same people in the comments. I go this creator's dropped this video on a topic that I know I'm going to be interested in, or I like his format, or I like his presentation of information. At least how I've seen it, we emphasize this word community a lot, especially in the make money online and online internet space. This whole community is the new trend, and it's very much, at least it's apparent on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, and I think also you could probably agree on YouTube, where the goal here is not to reach as many people. It's the metric to measure is not likes or subscribers, but it's retention and engagement. And so what you're fostering is you're fostering a parasocial relationship, or you're building reputation with someone, and that's how you actually can convert someone into a client, or get someone to fly out to an event, or network with them in that way.
It's funny you say that too, because YouTube's actually added a new community feature, a community tab. You've probably noticed posts that you can now do on YouTube, but they actually added a feature that creators can add. I don't know if they've rolled this out. I have to check, because their plan is to roll it out to all creators. I think it might just be partners right now, but to add a community tab where viewers can actually post inside of your own channel community, which is really interesting. YouTube kind of diving into that community aspect, which just makes it more of an interaction where you're, speaking with the people that are following you and inside of that community, and then leading them in a way that can, help them with whatever it is that you happen to be doing.
Yeah, I think experience is everything right now. And actually, in the very old original YouTube days, creators would even recommend other creators that they were consuming. And you kind of get this network effect. And so being able to foster community like that, I'm very excited to hear that YouTube is doing that. In terms of you, are you still creating your own content? How are you building your own brands when it comes to content? How do you, now you're, obviously you have businesses to attend to. So how do you navigate your own personal content creation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am creating my own content, and I go in and out of seasons of really diving deep into it. Right now, I've really challenged myself to dive into creating more consistent content. And it's because as a business owner, right, you get to this degree where you're like, all right, I've got all these people, I'm leading these people, and I am traveling and I'm doing these different things. You can make up these different excuses, and I have a team that can edit together existing clips and do different things. But now I am creating more content, and I have a few different pillars of content. So really I look at it in 3 kind of core buckets. I also have a podcast as well, which we got to get you on that too. It's the Marketing Minds podcast. And so interview style podcast. It is done virtually. At some point I might do an in-person setup. I love this setup that you got here. But it is done virtually, and I'll bring people on and I'll do that podcast. And right now we're experimenting with it. At one point it was weekly. Then we kind of pulled back a little bit. I think we're probably going to stick to bi-weekly over this upcoming year. But essentially it's bringing people on. They provide value. And I love just diving in, kind of similar to, I know there's definitely similarities that we have. I just love having a conversation. I'm going to have these conversations anyways, so I might as well record it and share it. So I have those. Then I have the content I've been doing for a really long time. This is what I've gotten really good at, which is standard kind of long form or mid, obviously it's not as long as a podcast, but like basically, 10 to 20 minute long YouTube videos that are, kind of direct to camera, but they could also have a tutorial component or a teaching component, educational component, talking about all kinds of different things, whether it be YouTube ads or video marketing or YouTube channel, or now I'm doing more AI content around business growth, right? That's relevant. So that type of content. And that's been what I've been doing for a long time.
And that's more like monologue video essay.
Yeah, monologue, but then also usually my videos have a component of screen share and showing something, teaching something on that side. And then also short form content. The short form content is the one, so the short form in the podcast is what I've ramped up. So basically I've been doing for a long time, and I'm going to continue to do my standard YouTube videos. I've been doing that. Basically, I have not really stopped with like a weekly cadence of YouTube videos in like 16 years. Now, what the videos were changed. I started with app review videos, then they become tech tutorials, then with my Aleric Heck channel, the one where I talk about, all things marketing and YouTube and stuff like that. Like with that channel, I've really expanded in the marketing and that side of things. And that content, I've now been focused on that. So those 10-minute videos. But now with shorts, that's something where earlier on, I was not as deep into it. But I see the value and I see what it's done for our clients and the way we support them. And so we've been doing short form clips. So one of the things is like, you might as well do clips, at least like, using like an Opus clip, but it's not going to be the same as recording your own individual content. And so that's kind of the third pillar. So I now have these 3 pillars of content and, but I also don't think people need to have all 3 to start.
No, I think you kind of have to master one.
Yeah. You master one. And what I mastered early on was the standard, like 10 to 20 minute direct to camera video, tutorial, educational video. Then I went into podcast a year ago. And then obviously we've done a lot of different shorts, but now I'm getting more inconsistent. I film just a daily short now, and that's been great as well.
I think, it's very interesting because it's like the format is, at least that I've seen, being, because I come from the short format content world, is like I look at it of you have short format content or digestible content like Twitter or Instagram, Reels, Shorts. That's almost like it's like a daily journal, or it's like self-reflections. They're very unedited, organic, just kind of out there. And then you have like a monologue or education content that would be more like a prepared essay, right? Where it's something that's presented, but it's short and concise. And then you have dialogues like this that can just kind of go wherever, kept within the confines of a certain conversation. Where do you see AI changing content? Do you think that it's going to alter the way that business owners and this specific type of like personal development or business development, education content, do you see this type of content being disrupted by AI brain rot?
So it's a great question. And also I'm going to talk about what we're seeing with the ad side, because what we're seeing on the YouTube ad side is very interesting individually with AI. What I think with organic content, is I think what it's going to do is it's going to split into a couple of different camps. Similar to how you have entertainment and education, you're going to have your AI content, and then you're going to have your authentic human connection. And there's also some hybrid, which is really interesting, which we'll talk about as well organically, but also what we're seeing with ads. So you have your AI only content. I think the thing is with AI only content right now, it doesn't have to be as good to perform. It's more of a quantity play. But when everybody, which we're already kind of there, can just create AI content, now the AI content and the faceless content needs to be really good to stand out. And also, I don't think you're competing necessarily, to some degree, you're competing with all content. You're technically doing that. But I think you're more directly competing with all AI content. And then when you have non-AI content, you're, yes, to some degree competing with AI content, but you're also competing with other non-AI content. I actually think it's easier for people to compete in the non-AI content category because most people aren't willing to take the time to film a natural video.
Yep. Especially in the business world of like business owners, if I can just create Watch Mojo, top 10 things about this industry, and it's, I pay a content agency, let's say $5,000 a month to just pump out this AI content, and I never have to think about it. Like, that's so much easier for me to produce versus writing an essay and actually clearly organizing my thoughts on a topic and presenting that to a camera. It's a much different undertaking as a business owner. It's a totally different investment of time, energy, resources. I would agree. I think it's much less competitive to just create content.
And it's like in the Incredibles where it's like, if everybody's super, nobody is, right? It's like with the AI stuff, there's so much power and capability, but if you're just using AI, if it's just faceless, yes, right now, not a lot of people are doing it, so you can stand out. But in the future, everyone will be able to do it. And now they're even creating tools and apps that can create this AI content automatically. And so anybody can sign up for a subscription on one of those tools as those come out, and more and more of them are going to come out. And so what that means is the AI content you're going to see, and you will see winners, is going to be the best AI content. And then there's going to be a lot of AI content that doesn't get a whole lot of views or traction. But then it's going to open up a new blue ocean on organic content because a lot of people are going to shift over. So you have a big opportunity there. I think with organic, it's going to be really interesting to see how a hybrid AI plus organic plays out. There's a better use case for that with ads. This is what you're going to find really fascinating. So with our advertising side, and I'll break down some more of our frameworks around how to craft a winning YouTube ad and then also how to target it. But one thing that you need to know to have this make sense is that our ad framework is hook, educate, call to action. I can break it more in depth in a second, but really the hook pulls people in, the educate provides genuine value, the call to action gets people to take action from the ad. And because we're getting in front of people who are watching educational style content on YouTube, we want to have the educate section. And so that's the main framework. So what we did is we have our top performing previous ads with no AI. These are our high performers. And we ran this test for us and many of our clients. So let's just take one. Let's just use myself as an example, though. But basically, a full ad with no AI, this is our control ad. We've been running it for a long time. There's multiple of them. And these are the ads that we're always trying to beat. And then we tested full AI videos as an ad. Just AI, no human at all. Multiple versions.
I remember you were speaking at an event. This was probably 3 months ago, 6 months ago. And Aleric shows me a video of him completely AI generated, but it looks like you, it sounds like you, and you're wearing this crown and you have the scepter and you're the YouTube ad king. And it blew me away that you can fully generate the voices on par, the face is there, but it's all AI.
Exactly. It's all AI.
And your ability I'm curious about how they performed in contrast, but the ability to creatively iterate of if you're doing rapid creative testing, it takes me, let's say 5 minutes to film an ad versus I could create 50 variations of an ad in the blink of an eye. So it's just it's infinitely more scalable when it comes to testing on the front end, just in terms of investment in order to test, but how did it actually perform against the organic stuff?
Yeah, so that's exactly. So that's it. So that's where it gets really interesting is you can test all these different things. So we tested full AI ads, full traditional ads, and then we tested something different. We tested a hybrid ad where only the first 8 seconds was AI, and then the rest was our traditional ad, the exact same traditional ad we had before. We just swapped the 8 seconds. So what was really interesting is the worst performer was the pure AI ad with no person in it. The different variations of that performed the worst. The second best was our traditional top performing ads with no AI. What performed the best, and this was crazy, was the hybrid ad, an 8-second AI hook followed by a talking to camera style video. And here's why I think this is. I think it's because it has the best of both worlds. What's the benefit of AI? You can rapidly test a bunch of different hooks, and it's attention grabbing. It gets people to pay attention and not skip the ad on YouTube. But then what's the benefit of a more traditionally filmed video? It builds trust. It builds the know, like, and trust. You're like, this is the person behind it. I resonate with this person. They're teaching me something. The problem with the AI only ad, the reason that was the bottom performer was because, yes, it could capture attention, but it couldn't build trust. And then the problem with our top performing ads in the past, now the reason it did a little bit better than the AI is building trust. Actually, it seems, I mean, that's actually more important, according to this study, and I would say that in general too. But it didn't quite capture as many eyeballs because it's not the big kind of like over the top, like me as a king or a superhero, at the beginning of the ad. But what worked the best was the first 8 seconds. That's all you need to capture attention. That's AI. That's me as a YouTube ads king or as a superhero with YouTube on my, uniform, or even a Lego person of me, which is funny. That's a Lego man. And I actually have a hook. What if you could ethically hijack your competitor's traffic and send it directly into your own funnel? And I talk about using URL affinity audiences, so targeting people based on going to competitors' websites, which we can talk about because that's really powerful targeting strategy. But and I have me as a Lego. A Lego pirate. What if you could ethically hijack your competitor's traffic? And it's me as a Lego pirate.
I love that.
Those types of things work well. And then also even some ads where we just basically had there's a way to essentially like animate yourself. So like either in like kind of a Japanese anime kind of style or a cartoon style. And those also work well too, because it just captures attention. Like, what is this? But then it cuts into me just normally. So it's just the first 8 seconds.
Because so the hook, educate, call to action. And it's like, okay, well, what are we doing here? It's like the first 8 seconds, like all you have to do is pique the interest of an ideal client. And it's like, I love that, like the AI, and it makes sense because you can introduce way more novelty, right? Visually, you can create more novelty. With the sound effects, you can create more novelty. Like it's a newer experience than just a random dude talking to a camera. But then there's no accountability and there's no authority with a Lego pirate telling me how to run my business. And so like cutting to you behind the camera, it's like my understanding of the same framework, because we use the exact same thing, capture, keep, convert on short format content, is like you have to capture attention, and it's like, hey, listen to me. And then you have to show that it's like, if you're going to cry wolf, you better back it up, that there's something there. And so like switching to you speaking to the camera is a demonstration of like, hey, this is who I am. I'm actually accountable to this. Like, this isn't some random video made in a warehouse and who knows where with whatever business policies. Like, this is legitimate and I'm an expert in this industry. And then the convert piece, at least how we do with short format, is solving the immediate next problem or an immediately actionable thing. And so it's I'm going to capture attention however I can. I'll be a Lego pirate or Superman. I'm going to demonstrate that I actually know what I'm talking about through some sort of accountability or authority or relatability. And then I'm just going to give you something that's immediately actionable. Is that kind of the recipe?
Exactly. That's and then just making sure that you have that educate, that value there as well. But really, that is like the full formula, and making sure that you're pulling people in, you're providing value, and then you have a clear, concise call to action. And when you pull people in, yes, you could do that filming it naturally, but you can also do it with AI. And I think as long as you do it the right way. And in most industries where, there could be some exceptions that we've ran into with people that like the industry just isn't as into AI yet. Although I think that'll change. But in general, that formula will work really well. And then you can rapidly split test different hooks with AI because you could film the rest of the ad once or twice or however many variations you want. But let's say even if you just have one variation, well, all of a sudden you can now test 100 different hooks. Not to say you do it all at once. Obviously, it take you some time because you do want to put enough budget behind each creative. Some might test, half a dozen to a dozen at a time. in these campaigns. But over time, by cutting the losers, scaling the winners, you have an opportunity to test through dozens and dozens of variations.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Really, it is. Because there's there's all this emphasis in the online marketing or content marketing space that like 80% of the thing that you should focus on is the hook, right? It's like the most important thing is the hook, the hook, the hook, the hook. And it's like the Pareto principle of like 80% of the results in terms of cost per click and impressions and all that will come from the hook. But then that 20%, the rest of the video that's way less difficult to film, is actually where you build all the trust, and that's where you get the conversion. So it makes sense that the AI full video was your worst performer, because it's like, yes, it does really well at the front end, most important thing, which is the hook, the 80%, but that last 20% of the results is where all of the actual money comes from. And I think that's also where you see the difference between Mr. Beast and PewDiePie versus a more involved content creation ecosystem like Danco or, all the, Alex Ramosi, all the greats online is, yes, there's a good hook. There's good novelty, like the AI hooks that you're doing. But then that back bit, like the actual education, the value, and the call to action is where you build up the results that someone's going to write a check for. They're going to go, okay, he actually talks the talk. Obviously, you being the founder of Ad Outreach, you have a book on video authority. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Is there a situation, let's say, is there a type of business owner, if you were reset blank slate, you're not involved in content at all, do you think that there's a situation where building a brand on YouTube and creating content on YouTube is not the right thing to be doing?
Yeah, I have an answer for you. Because the thing is, and I think also earlier on in business, you do think like, oh, this will work for everybody. But here's the thing, and I'll tell you in a second who this works really well for. But there are businesses that maybe this isn't the number one strategy they should be focusing on. And in that case, what I would say is really the big one I see is like e-commerce companies that have a lot of SKUs. I'm not talking about the e-commerce company that has one main product that's their hero product that can work well on video. And we have those that we've advertised successfully on YouTube. But where I see problems is the e-commerce company that have, and because you've seen these, that have like 100, 200 different products. And, they're like, okay, well, how are we going to advertise? And they don't have really a winning product. They just kind of have a store.
Yep.
And they're like, all right, how are we going to like advertise this? So we have all these different supplements, or they have all of these different, odds and ends or whatever it is. And that's where you run into problems because you're not really advertising one particular thing. So with YouTube ads, video is not the best for rapidly creating a bunch of different SKUs. You could do that with Google Shopping ads. You could do that with Facebook ads, which allow TikTok Shop. Yep. Exactly. And Google has their own Google Shopping as well, right? So it's like, but a lot of people do the Facebook, Facebook ads, TikTok Shop, Google Shopping. But on YouTube, that's not necessarily going to be the best because you have to create a bunch of videos. Now, at some point, that may change, right? Because of AI videos, we might be able to more rapidly test that. So this could be different, 6 months, 12 months from now. But at least right now, you don't have that ability to create so many different SKUs of videos. And then also lower price things in general, really things under $100 with YouTube ads. You have to really know what your numbers are and have some kind of residual on the back end. If it's a one-off purchase, that's not going to be as good. But if you have a recurring purchase, they buy this, then they buy more things in the future, then that can work quite well. But, basically what you want is video. The pro is that it educates, it provides a lot of value, it creates higher quality leads. So that's why YouTube works really well for coaches, consultants, course creators, expert businesses, agencies. We work with a lot of companies that are on the higher ticket side or running call booking funnels. It works so well because it's educational. People are going on YouTube, they're looking to learn, they see a video, they click on it, they're more likely to take action. And they're actually there to find out information. If you can provide value, you can warm them up, they build the know, like, and trust. Whereas on other platforms, I might just kind of be scrolling. That said, you might pay a little bit more to reach that person. Now, for the higher quality, if you're doing a call booking funnel, you'll have low. So typically what we've seen is on the front end, you might have a slightly higher initial lead cost, like your opt-in on YouTube versus Facebook. But what we see is that typically the actual cost per call is lower or on par. And then the quality of the call, the show rates, are far higher on YouTube because they're actually more warmed up and more educated. Right. So that's where you're actually going to pay for quality. But if it's an e-commerce product that doesn't have a back end of subscription,
not really relevant.
then you don't really care about the quality. You're like, a buyer is a buyer. Let me just get a buyer cheaper. And there's places that are going to be cheaper. So that's where I would say the YouTube strategy, for those types of e-commerce or very low ticket things without really a back end is maybe not the best. Versus if you're a coach, consultant, course creator, expert business, high ticket, agency, whatever it happens to be, and you're looking for phone call bookings, quality leads, or you sell a higher end, product or service or software, then YouTube's going to be a great opportunity.
What about like local businesses or the person that's constrained by a certain geolocation? So low ticket businesses off the table, one-time products or services unless high ticket can be off the table. And then, what's been your experience with let's say the guy that does pressure washing or the local real estate company or roofing company?
Yeah, so we've got great roofing companies, real estate, local kind of insurance type companies, and people in that kind of solar is another great example. We've got a lot of great solar companies that are targeted around a specific area. Similarly, those are all higher end, higher ticket items. They're not like service, my local restaurant, although we did have a very successful Brazilian steakhouse that was launching in an area, and this was a few years ago now, but was launching, and they wanted to blitz their entire market, and we basically turned this guy into a local celebrity. He was walking down, he told me it's like walking down the street, and people were like, "You're that Brazilian steakhouse guy."
That's hilarious.
And so, for certain use cases, you're opening up a brand new restaurant, and you want to blitz the market. Like, I mean, here's the thing: it's going to work.
Yeah.
It's just, is that the best strategy? Like, what's the promotion that you're doing? If a random restaurant was just like, oh, I just want to increase my sales by a little bit, and should I do a whole new YouTube ad strategy? Probably not. No. But if they're blitzing into an area, then that's different. Or if they're selling something higher end, like roofing, like solar. Like those types of things.
Yeah, custom pools.
Such a great industry. That would be perfect as well.
I mean, it's $50,000.
I think we did have a client that did custom pools. Yeah. We have had so many clients. I'm sure you kind of know. It's like it's hard for me to speak to all of them. But
yeah, I mean, arguably, like for people that don't know, you're debatably one of the, if not the foremost expert when it comes to paid growth and monetization on YouTube. Like, you are that guy. Like, you're not Mr. Beast when it comes to subscribers and virality, but when it comes to using long format videos or mid format videos on YouTube for business monetization, you are him. There's probably maybe a single handful of other names on that list. But yeah, genuinely, you've crushed the game. Okay, so I like how you've presented that of, really like your options for online marketing, at least in my experiences, you're either a mile wide and an inch deep, or you're an inch wide and a mile deep. And so, like, if you have a ton of different SKUs as an e-commerce company, or you're a one-time low-ticket product, or you're a locally constrained business that doesn't have great margins, reality is like your option is to go a mile wide and an inch deep and just blitz your whole neighborhood and become a local celebrity. Or blitz everybody in your marketplace. But really the opportunity, if you're going to be paying the increased cost per CPM, so you're increasing the cost you're paying for impressions, for clicks, for conversions, for call bookings, you might as well be going an inch wide and really being selective on who you're getting on the phone with or who you're selling to. And that's where you can really drill down with a YouTube strategy. So walk me through, let's say, I have an online marketing agency, or let's say I had a local roofing business. Yeah. So let's say I do have a high ticket product or service, limited SKUs. I'm an expert in an industry, or I'm an industry specific offering. How would I go about YouTube? Do I just post a bunch of long format stuff? Do I just run ads? Do I do a combination? Like, if YouTube was the only way that I'm going to grow this business and get clients, what do I do?
Yeah. So it's really a marketing flywheel combining ads and organic. What I will say, though, is I'll put a little asterisk, then I'll explain what I would recommend doing. I do recommend leveraging both. But I also understand there's a lot of businesses that are looking to either get into organic YouTube or get into ads, and they maybe aren't at the spot where they want to get into the other. I don't want to stop people from getting into one by thinking they need to do both.
Yes.
We have plenty of clients that see a lot of success with YouTube ads, and they have like one video on their channel. Yep. And then we have clients that are doing, and it's less so with us because we have such a big focus on ads, but we have clients though still who are doing YouTube channel and successful YouTube channels, and they're not really focused on the ad side. And that also does really well too. Now, so you're not losing something by doing one and not the other. That said, you stand to gain the benefit of doing both because they compound on each other. It creates a flywheel. So just to illustrate that point, then I'll walk you through what this looks like, is if you have your ads are pulling in new people, right? So the ads are pulling in new people. Some of those people are going to convert right away, but also like 90% of them are not going to convert right away, right? And or of your leads, obviously you'd want to convert more of your calls, but like of your leads, of the leads that come in, right? There's going to be a certain amount that you convert. The rest, well, hey, you can warm them up on YouTube. Yes, your email content, but really video is going to warm them up way more. So you want to send them videos. Now they're consuming that video content, they're warming up, and then you can retarget all those people and then get them to, again, become a client. Also, anybody who discovers your organic content, you can retarget all the organic content people with ads. By retargeting people that are watching your content, subscribed, liking your content. You can retarget those people with ads as well. And it creates a flywheel where it just keeps spinning around and around, feeding itself. And so that's what I've really found is, to use your example, right? What I would recommend is, and I'll give you the whole playbook. So basically the ads playbook, because I already kind of started there, is hook, educate, call to action with the ad. We want to create a few different hooks. So historically it was filming basically a few variations. Now you can use AI to help you with that too, but I'd still recommend doing more natural. So basically 5 different hooks and then 2 educate sections. And really usually 1 call to action, but you could have a couple call to actions if you have different things. So some people, I would recommend it. And again, assuming you already have a funnel, we would plug into that funnel. If you don't, then we've had plenty of clients that we help them build a funnel. We recommend, we call it a video conversion funnel. It's our version of a VSL funnel, but it feels like they watched a YouTube video. So they see the YouTube ad or they see organic YouTube content. It all leads to one place, a video that feels like a YouTube video, but it's really a video sales letter in disguise. So it hits all the right notes. And you're not like being disingenuous with that. You're just creating a YouTube video with the principles of a VSL that is designed to get people to book a call. And what I love is I love VSLs that don't have a sale at the end. It's not even a VSL. That's why I call it, a video conversion training, right? Because you're providing value. And then at the end, the goal is to get them to convert into a phone call, which, is like a free strategy call, right? So that's what we like to do. So ad and organic to that video conversion funnel, which, we can script for clients. We help clients build out. But basically, when it comes to the ads, hook, educate, call to action, that's leading into that. A few different hooks, couple educate, 1 call to action leading into your funnel. That's that formula. When it comes to targeting that ad in front of the right people at the right time, that's where we have what we call our alpha AI targeting strategy. Now, that strategy has been the secret to those hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, is because we're training YouTube's algorithm on exactly who your ideal client is. The big mistake a lot of people make is when they go to the targeting side. Let's say they get the ad correct. And again, one of the mistakes on the ad is leaving out the educate. People want to learn, you want to provide value. When it comes to the actual targeting of the ad, the big mistake that people make is not actually targeting that ad in front of their specific ideal client based on what they're searching for or who that person is. So a lot of people will just use Google's pre-built audiences. They'll say, oh, there's literally an audience called in market for marketing and advertising. And it's just like you could do that one. I could do that one. Anybody who does marketing could do that. It's so general. Instead, what we can do is we can build what's called a custom audience. And these custom audiences, we can actually put in any keyword or any term or website we want to target. So there's 3 main types of these. There's custom affinity or interest and in market. So essentially, these are terms that describe the person or what they're in the market for. So this could be business owner, entrepreneur. This could be digital marketer. This could be the fact that they're interested in Instagram marketing, for instance. So it's terms that describe what they're interested in or who they are. That one's good, but we could go even deeper. My favorite, I've got 2 favorites. So I got 2 favorites, but the one that is really tried and true I've done for a long time is custom intent. So that's based on actual YouTube or Google search terms. So if somebody's searched for something on YouTube or on Google, you can target them. So imagine somebody's looking up how to grow my Instagram business page.
That's
that
who
exact
you're putting
search.
the ad to.
you could just target the person who has searched that on YouTube or Google recently.
Yep.
And it doesn't just have to be the exact search they just did. The way this works now, it used to be that. Now the way it works is it will target anybody who's done that search recently. Now Google doesn't say what recently is, but it kind of shows, like the reports that I've read kind of show it's somewhere between the realm of they've either just done it up to a max like 14 days, but usually within a few day window.
And I'm sure they're going to adjust that based on search interest and whatever fits them.
And based on their AI.
Yeah.
So they know there's so much AI data. They have millions of data points. So it's like, instead of second guessing them, but it's just like, all right, let's trust that they'll be able to do this effectively. But you could have all these keywords. And I'll actually tell you like how we do that in a second. And then there's also URL affinities. So you can target people based on going to websites or similar sites. So a lot of people don't realize this. You can literally target people based on having gone to this competitor's website or this complementary site. And it's called a URL affinity audience. And then the next question people ask is, well, how is that possible? How can you target people who go to these sites or similar sites? Well, think about it. We're dealing with Google. They have Google search.
Yep.
So that's where a lot of people start going to websites with Google search. They also have Google Chrome. Every site you go on Google Chrome. They have Gmail, right? Yep. All the emails, all the newsletters you're signed up for. I mean, there's a reason Gmail is free.
It's all there.
It's all there. And Google Analytics is installed on 52.6% of all websites online.
That's nuts. That's nuts. So, I think people underestimate, like, the people look at YouTube as like its own little thing, and you have the full weight of the entire Google ecosystem behind your advertising. Most of our clients work with Facebook advertising. Yep. I was recently having a conversation with a buddy of mine who spent over $250 million on ads. And he's always telling me, he's like, you want to target as upmarket as possible. Like, as Dan Sullivan says, there's A clients, B clients, and C clients. You want to work with your A clients, delegate your B clients, fire your C clients. Yeah. And so Adam's advice, this advertising guy, he's like, only ever target your best of your best of your best clients, because the B clients and the C clients, they'll fall into place. Oh, yeah. But like, the biggest complaint that I've seen in online marketing is people, like, they might have the perfect content, or they might get that right, they might have the creative right, but they're just targeting the wrong people. And so they just get absolutely boof leads, like just the worst of the worst leads. And Facebook's really good if you train the pixel and if you optimize for conversions and you show Facebook who you actually want to convert. Otherwise, they'll send you whoever. But Facebook doesn't even hold a candle to the data available to Google. And so it's like the YouTube targeting on paid ads is, I'm sure it's just absolutely nuts.
It is. And that's the thing. And so when you know how to use it the right way, we're tapping into all those data points. And also, it's just going to keep getting better and better with Gemini. I don't know, you see Gemini 3, right? There's so many new things with that. And now, I don't know if you saw this, but OpenAI just issued a code red, which is the same thing that Google had done a couple years ago when ChatGPT came out. Google's like, code red, we need to make sure that we catch up. Well, now it's the shoes on the other foot. And again, they're going to keep competing. I'm not, but like, the thing is, it's like ChatGPT is like, oh no, Google is good, code red. We need to now up our game. And so, I've been utilizing it. Already, some of the reports show that they're gaining market share as Gemini gets more and more people using it. All of that data is going to be leveraged in ads.
Oh my God!
And that's just a whole nother thing. Anything you put into Gemini, all that information is getting leveraged. Even if they don't have ads in the Gemini platform yet, which they will. It's just a game of chicken. Who's going to add ads first in these AI tools? And I'm going to be one of the first people there. By the way, this is something that you could bookmark. I think one of the biggest blue ocean opportunities is when these AI tools roll out ads for the first time.
Oh my God. Advertising on AI platforms is going to go bonkers. We're already seeing like AI psychosis and people like getting married to their ChatGPT. It's going to be nuts when their ChatGPT husband tells them what socks to buy for Christmas. We're close.
I don't know about
I don't know the ethical implications.
I don't know the ethical nature of that, but just in general.
It makes me squirm a little bit, but it's real.
But seriously, it's real. That's the thing. And what was crazy is I found a this is going to go after Christmas, so I can say this. I found a really good Christmas gift for, not that my brother's going to watch this anyways per se, but for my brother. And I was on ChatGPT. I used ChatGPT shopping because I wanted to see, okay, how is this going to be? And actually, I should have ran the same thing on Gemini, but this was a little bit before all that. But anyways, and so I put in the details about him. He's a PhD student. He's at Stanford, all that stuff, and he does chemistry. And it came up with a e-commerce site that specifically makes gifts for chemistry students.
No
It's
way.
like called Science Grit.
So it like
.com or
finds this
something.
perfectly
and
selected
it finds
site.
this perfect thing. And here's the thing: I've Googled for gifts for him before, and I've never found this site.
Yeah, impossible to get a gift for him.
Exactly. And the website, like, it's legit. It's built on Shopify. I all this stuff shipped, but it's like, it's not super optimized because it's just like these people, like, they're science people, and they
It's
put
some
this
geek
together.
that just has a site and he's stoked about it.
And one of the things is I got him this mug because he got published in one of his first papers, his like science academic paper, and it was a lot of work. And literally, like, one of the mugs they had, and this is one of the things that popped up, is like, so the mug has his paper on one side, and on the other side it has a little quote, and it's like, pain is temporary, paper is forever.
That's hilarious.
And I know he's gonna love it because it's like his little like, the humor that he's gonna love, and it literally has his paper on the other side of it. I'm like, this is a perfect gift.
Yeah.
And I found it with AI, 100%. And I also, this is because I'm a marketer or whatever. So basically, I had to approve the proof of it. So they like, all right, here's the mock, so it's a personalized gift, and they had just kind of a generic thing that was like, and by the way, how did you hear about us? But it was like somebody was like, hey, here's the proof, and by the way, how did you hear about us? I all right, I'm gonna break this down. I actually heard about you on ChatGPT. Here's what I did. ChatGPT shopping coming from a marketer and business owner. I think you should know that ChatGPT is recommending your business. And and also I would look into like any ways to keep optimizing that with AEO.
That's SEO is dead. Like there's this whole big thing about like search engine optimization. Now it's large language model optimization of like, if you can curate your website and log your website and hash your data in a way that is friendly to AI, that it says, hey, these guys are great. Down the road it will be monetized. And like these platforms like Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, OpenAI, all of these companies very, very quickly and very soon, I don't think we're I think within the next 2 years at the longest, these platforms will be monetizing with advertisers for sure. But in the short term, and I think also the long term, like being able to rank organically on these platforms, of being recommended as an industry expert, being recommended for a product or a service or your website, that is, because people trust their ChatGPT. Like, the psychosis is real. It's happening. ChatGPT is my CFO, my personal therapist, my marketing strategist, all of the above, all at once. It's so strange to me. So I'm curious, when it comes to the advertising, specifically on YouTube ads. So you're mentioning the organic content and paid advertising. They're almost two different. It's like running versus weightlifting. Like they're two different disciplines that are correlated. Like if you run a lot, it'll benefit your strength. And if you train a lot of strength, it'll benefit your running, but they're not the same discipline. And so it's like, if you're going to commit to both, that's great, but doing one is still amazing. And I loved what there's a huge value when it comes to YouTube advertising and the paid ads because of Google's data and because of their targeting ability. Walk me through kind of like, how would you go about, let's say, like, what's the range of budget, like $1,000 a month all the way to $100 million a month? Like what kind of range is there for YouTube advertising, and how would you go about creating that audience to make sure you're targeting your ideal client?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of the budgets, what I'd recommend is, each campaign you'd want to have to be at least $25 per day. And that's, you need to get some like leads and conversions coming in each day. So at least $25. I'd recommend more like $50 or $100 a day. And then I'd always recommend having at least 2 campaigns. So you never want to have just one, because then you don't know if that's the best campaign or the worst campaign.
You're flying blind.
Yeah, exactly. You're flying blind. So you want to have a couple campaigns so you can try and beat the control. And then whatever one is not performing as well, all right, cut that. Okay, now we got another one. This one's now better. Let's cut this one. And of course, within the campaigns, you're optimizing them. You have multiple ad creatives, multiple audiences. So you're optimizing within the campaign, but you also have multiple campaigns that you're testing against each other. And so, the minimum I'd recommend is 2 $25 a day campaigns. My ideal and typical start would be, really it would be 4 campaigns. My most ideal is 4 campaigns of $50 per day per campaign.
Okay.
And I have 4 core types of campaigns that I like to start with, and at $50 a day.
And realistically, that's not crazy. Like
it's
starting at like $3,000 to $6,000 per month to monetize on YouTube is not a crazy. Obviously you have the time and the resources and everything else that goes into that, but just the cost of gas, right? Like just the cost of driving the car which is the cost of the ads, 3 to 6K is not a crazy investment, especially if you're, selling a $50,000 custom pool.
Exactly. So that's the thing. And then, and so that's what I would recommend on that side. And then to answer your second part of the question, how do you actually do the audience targeting? Well, and I'll share some resources that we have just overall, coming up, but I also have an AI ad targeting software. And so what that does is it really just, basically will scan your entire website, understand who your ideal client is, and then it will find what are they searching for on YouTube? What are they searching for on Google? What are URLs that you could have as a competitor URL? So it's keywordsearch.com, and it does the AI ad targeting for YouTube and Google ads. So you just put in the URL of your business, and it will scan that, understand it, and give you the audiences. And it's got like a free trial, so people can even like go in and just grab audiences. And then obviously our hope is people love it, but it's got like an unlimited 5-day free trial, so people can go in and has a direct integration to Google Ads. So they can click sync to Google Ads. They can sync their audiences to Google Ads. So all of these different custom audiences I talked about, they can build inside of that software to make sure that they're targeting the right people.
And what's the software one more time?
It's called keywordsearch.com.
Keywordsearch.com. Could we by chance do like a 10-day free trial for anybody listening to this? And we'll put a little code in the YouTube description.
I'll do something better. I'll do a 30-day free trial, and you could just use code FREEMONTH. It's just FREEMONTH, all caps.
Amazing.
And you can get a whole month for free.
Everybody listening to this, now you can go clip that and get some keyword search. Keywordsearch.com.
Keywordsearch.com.
Keywordsearch.com, free month. There's your free month. That's amazing. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rad. That's so cool. Cause it is like, and it's the same across any platform. It's like and it's even like the old proverb of like, you are the people you surround yourself with. It's like, you are the quality of the people you talk to. And it's the same thing with advertising is it's like, you want to target the most, like the highest likelihood of success potential lead. It's like, you don't want to just shoot an ad out to everybody, because then you're like, yes, the algorithm is smart, and yes, the algorithm will optimize and work in your favor because they want more of your money, but you got to give it a custom audience. You have to give it a direction to aim in. So having a tool like that can scrape your website that's great sauce. That's super great sauce. Now I'm curious, do you see there being a ceiling to like how big you can go with paid on YouTube or organic on YouTube? Like, do you think that there's a situation where this doesn't apply on the high end? Obviously, on the low end, you have the low ticket businesses, high SKU models. But at the high end, like, do you see Forbes 100, like the biggest companies in America, are they missing a chance by not advertising actively on YouTube or not building organic on YouTube?
So there are definitely big opportunities for those types of businesses to advertise on YouTube. And we have big clients that we've worked with advertising on YouTube. So like we trained ClickFunnels internal team. They obviously, quite a big advertiser. So what we'll also do is we'll also train businesses on how to do it. So we'll help them set up their ad campaigns, train their internal teams. So we have some clients that we run the ads for them. We've got clients that we will train them and help them set it up. And it's more of a hybrid. So it's like a cross between done for you and one-on-one. And then we also have a group, program where it's more of a training and education, teaching people, themselves how to run YouTube ads. So it's really and then we have the software and we have YouTube channel growth strategies. So really it's all encompassing.
And now you have the book.
And now the book. So just really, it's like, kind of very going like vertically, like, all right, here's all the different ways that you can work with us.
If you want to monetize on YouTube, you are the guy. Yeah.
There we go. Well, thank you. And exactly. And so that's what we're doing. And so we have worked with other bigger clients too. So like an early client we had was Tuft & Needle Mattress. So obviously, big, very nice. Big client. At one point we trained the internal team for snow teeth whitening. Obviously they're quite big too. And then also, like Procter Gallagher, like Bob Proctor's team, New Reach Education, Pace Morby's team. So like these are some people that are like big brands spending a lot on ads. Cole Gordon's team as well. That was a couple years ago.
All over YouTube a couple years ago. Because I think they scaled like it was. They were printing off of YouTube.
And we got them. We got them onto YouTube, and I remember. So I remember having a conversation with Cole, and then he also helped us like recruit some of our reps and stuff like that. And I was one of his early clients, and I kept telling him like, dude, you need to do YouTube ads. And he was just Facebook ads up to $600K a month. And then we came in and he got locked in with YouTube ads. Now, this wasn't the only, he did a lot of things in this time, but over a period of time, then he rapidly scaled over 3 million a month, and and with a combination of different strategies. And it's not just the ads, but like,
I remember
he blitzed YouTube ads from those.
He was inescapable on YouTube. Yeah. If you're in that industry, like the make money online space in 2023, Cole Gordon was on every single video you watched. Yeah. It was, dude. Yeah, he crushed. Is there like, what's the most you've ever seen? Like, is there a plateau at like $5 million a month in spend or anything like that, where it's not worth the squeeze anymore?
Well, it gets pretty crazy over $1 million a month in spend. And what I will say is, in terms of the way and our capacity to really hands-on support people, that's probably the capacity where we get not beyond the point where we can help them with our overall strategies, but where it gets into a question of scaling. It's a bigger question of scaling beyond that point, right?
And economically, if you're spending $1 million a month on YouTube, you should have an internal dedicated team.
Yeah, and that's where we can train them, and we can have our recommendation strategies. We do have clients that get up, at that level. But that at that point, there's different things that are happening, and there is more ad fatigue. So you're going to have to create more creatives. Although there's less ad fatigue on YouTube, way less than on Facebook. Facebook, you have to swap out creatives all the time. We've got ads on YouTube that run long-term. Even think about the ads that you saw, like when those are blitzed, like a lot of them are similar ads. Yeah. And now with AI hooks, you can just more rapidly test with that. What I'd say is it's kind of like a lot of things, the rule of threes really does apply. There's different strategies to do for your first $3,000 of spend, which is really like kind of the minimum I'd recommend, that $100 a day, $3,000 to $10,000 to $30,000 to $100,000. To 300,000 to $1 million a month, and beyond $1 million a month. Again, we can give you the outline, but that's not where our core area of supporting is. It would be more, all right, here's our overall strategies, and then you'll probably have a growth person on your team that knows how to handle that volume of spend
for sure
as well.
Is the platform feasible for that though? Like, do you as arguably the foremost YouTube ad expert, like, is it feasible to scale into 10 million plus per month and advertising on YouTube, or is that even?
It's feasible, but you'd also have to look at all the metrics, diminishing returns. You definitely would want multiple funnels or strategies around that. And then the other thing is, in our so in a lot of the companies that we work with, so the companies that get there are companies that are either at the absolute top tier within this, kind of expert, coaching consulting industry, like we talked about, or they're e-commerce or softwares that have more mass market appeal. I think where you just have to know that's when it actually matters. What is your addressable market?
Yep.
Underneath $1 million a month of spend, when people are like, I've tapped my market, like,
realistic,
you have not tapped your, unless you're super niche B2B where you're like,
if
I can
you're
only work with Fortune
vegan
500s,
it's like if you do vegan yoga, like yoga training for vegans, like that's goat yoga, like that. I will respect you saying you've tapped your TAM at like 10K a month in ad spend. But yeah, to your, like, it's a couple companies that I've seen crushing recently is like the Comfort hoodies, and then what's his name, Josh of Snow Whitening. Forget his last name. But I mean, like, if you have that large TAM and you have a renewable product or a high ticket product, like, I definitely think that I personally haven't I haven't waded into those deep waters of like, what is really the ceilings that you've seen in terms of YouTube advertising. But I guess to your point, diminishing returns, like, plus after $1 million a month on one platform, you better be diversified into every other platform.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be exactly diversified in all the different platforms at that point for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, and when it comes to YouTube advertising, you'd say, make sure you have either a renewable product or service or a high ticket product or service, whether local or online. It seems like it can work either way, but definitely renewable or high ticket. And then $3,000 a month minimum to get into paid advertising. What would you say are the baseline criteria for organic content that you've seen?
Yeah, so just to break down the organic strategy, and then I'll dive into the baseline. So in terms of the strategy, We like to take an approach where it all pillars around your weekly long form content or standard content on YouTube, where your education, you're talking to the camera, you're establishing that relationship with the viewer and providing value. And so we really like the weekly cadence for that type of content. Then you can also add podcast content to that. Weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, whatever that happens to be. You don't need the podcast side though. The podcast has different areas. As you know, there's multiple benefits. There's the benefit to the viewer getting different types of content, right? So, benefits that you have there, but you're also building relationships with people. We already knew each other, but on podcasts. So there's multiple different things that you're doing podcasts for, but you also have to remember that podcasts are, bringing on a guest and giving them a platform.
Yes.
And so it is really valuable to the viewer, and it's also valuable to the guest and the relationship that you have with the guest, but it's not as much, bringing you in the spotlight as much as your solo content. So a big mistake some people make is they only create podcast content and they don't have enough solo content that's showing themselves as an expert and their own services.
It's I love having these conversations. I love having a podcast. Having a podcast is one of my favorite things. It is not great at directly translating to revenue. Having VSL, short format content, long format monologue or video essay is I can attribute ROI to that. This type of stuff is I foresee, or my expectation is, content creation in general is going to become a lot more social. Up until now, a lot of the time people, build their private communities or their private viewership, their private audience, their private course, their private mastermind. And that's awesome that we have 1,000 different cults and 1,000 different tribes for all these different online communities. But I anticipate the online business space becoming a lot more social. And so that's kind of where I love having these podcast conversations is I anticipate, your online community and my online community start to mix and become one larger online community. So but I agree that this is not the way. If you're building a brand on YouTube, do podcasts because you want to mix audiences or because you want to share a different perspective, not because you want to convert someone.
Exactly. And also having you on my podcast gets you in front of, so that's also why it's beneficial to have a podcast too, because it's hey, and it is really valuable to the viewer. It's just not getting them in your, position to, immediately, they're not seeing all of your gifts in that particular video. But if you have other video content where they can, you're the person that introduced them to other guests, that gave them more, different types of value. And so you get to curate that. So you now make your channel a destination where people can actually watch content like this and know that they're always going to get something new. So it's actually great at keeping your content fresh, but you have to include content that you yourself are teaching because that's what's going to lead to your desired outcome. So the viewers are going to benefit either way. This content's fantastic for them, and it's great at building that relationship and mixing the audiences, especially when you do reciprocal podcasts. Right. That being said, the other type of content is what's actually going to drive your more direct conversions.
Yes. Yeah. It's that video essay or that content that is essentially designed to add value to your ideal client directly from you. It's that's a direct injection of your authority into their situation. That's going to put them into a state of, hey, I know, like, and trust you, and I'm willing to invest. It creates a buying state. I am curious, there's a lot of advice, kind of similar to the advertising. We talked about targeting where some people advise oh, don't do any targeting, and other people say target a bunch or do one campaign or do a bunch of campaigns. There's also kind of these conversations or conflicting advice on have one channel for your podcast and another channel for your video essay or your monologue type content. Do you suggest separating them? Do you suggest keeping them the same, and why?
So that's a really good question. And this is also where I might differ from other people, but it also depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to convert overall viewers and actually build a channel, but with the purpose of growing the business, then I would have it be all on one channel because you're centralizing your content. Also, what's your content production schedule? By the way, the last thing I forgot to say in that, or not forget to say, but I want to say before, is also daily short form content, which at minimum clips, which there's basically no excuse. If you're doing all this other stuff, do at least clips.
Yep.
And I disagree with people that are oh, don't do clips. It has to be just film. It's at least do clips. That said, filming it directly, as I know you are a big advocate of, and I remember
Yes.
even conversations that we had, just filming directly the shorts, that obviously is far superior to the clips, but you might as well have clips if you have nothing else.
It's quality is preferred, but quantity is adequate. Like quantity will do the trick, but quality is much preferred.
Yes, exactly. And so if you have that combination, then, and so basically daily short form content and more if possible, but again, maintaining the quality, like you're saying. So with all that in mind, to kind of answer the question that you had, what I would recommend is having it be centralized if your goal is to convert viewers into clients, which is again, like what we're talking about with Video Authority. The reason for that is, okay, you're growing your channel instead of splintering your audience in different places.
Yep.
Unless the podcast is a different topic. Yep. But this podcast is also aligned with what you're doing. So having it on the channel, but having it be dedicated content around the podcast means that every time the podcast comes out, you're giving people a taste of this variety of content.
Yep.
That said, you also got to have your content as well. What it's going to do is it's going to give the need for the viewers to have some variety, and it's also going to give them the content that's going to warm them up to get them to convert with you. And it's not going to splinter that audience into different places. Now, if you're looking to be the next #1 podcast, you got to separate that.
Yeah, if you want to be Diary of a CEO, you got to keep it separate.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, if you want your channel branded content to go viral and become a celebrity just based on your own content, kind of like Alex Hormozi, then you probably don't want the podcast on the same channel. Yep. But if your thing is not trying to build the biggest podcast or build the biggest individual personal brand, then I think having it all together is actually going to be better because it creates a more seamless experience. People just subscribe to one place. Yep. They get the variety. And the other thing is even though they're watching a podcast and they're learning from somebody that's not you, they're building their know, like, and trust with you every minute that they spend watching a podcast because you are the viewer in this podcast. They're now relating with you. You're asking the questions the viewer is thinking. So you are on the same playing field as the viewer. And so it actually does something really good having you as that interviewer, as that person looking to learn, because they now resonate with you.
Yeah, it creates more of a peer-to-peer relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
that's fascinating.
And then when you do come out and now you're sharing and educating, you can do so in a place where they've seen you in their shoes and they know, okay, hey, you're asking questions, you're a lifelong learner, so that when you're going and teaching something, oh, you've got something great to share. I got to listen to you as well. And they have that know, like, and trust already.
I love that so much. It's interesting. A couple of things that come to mind is there's that Henry Ford had this thing about his marketing campaign. His director of marketing had this campaign, and Henry's like gets sick of seeing it in the office, and he's like, dude, you got to change the marketing. And his head of marketing is like, dude, we haven't even launched this yet. And the whole adage being like, you get sick of your advertising before your customers get sick of your advertising. Yeah. And I think Alex Hormozi is in a specialized league where he posted pretty much every single day on YouTube for like 3 or 4 years straight. And so I think there can be a point where like the quantity can fatigue your audience, but most people use that as an excuse far before it's actually the reality. It's the same thing with like, you can overtrain in the gym, but the likelihood that you're overtraining is very, very, very low.
Yeah.
You might just need to add more recovery or specialize your training. I was talking to Arlen Moore, if you know who Arlen Moore is. He's more creative. And I really appreciated this philosophy and kind of to highlight of what you were expressing of, I think, if you're going to create secondary channels, like the reason to create a secondary channel is to create a specialized or unique experience. But then the reality is you are splintering your brand. And so it's like, for the most part, keep everything in-house, build a centralized brand, build up a centralized reputation. Your audience is not going to get sick of the content, and the algorithm is smart enough to feed the right content to the right person when they're ready to watch it, because they have the common interest of keeping them on the platform. But what I love about what Arlen's done is he'll just like spin up a random YouTube channel for some random side project where it's like, oh, this is a unique and special kind of artistic expression that I want over here. And so I think that there's an element to that too, where it's like you can, build these worlds, but for the most part, just keep it all at home and like build up that central reputation, which I like. To make things a bit more personal, I am curious because you've been in the online marketing and online content game since you were a kid. And so you've built online relationships. You've probably done business with people that you've never met in person. You've probably hired people that you've never met in person. And I wanted to get your experience of the difference in a relationship that you've built strictly online or strictly parasocial, where they've come to your content but you don't know who they are, versus the relationships you have in person. And what's it like navigating like, what have you noticed is the difference in relational dynamics between an online networking or parasocial versus an in-person relationship?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that there's value in all kinds of different relationships. And I have made so many incredible friends, online, and people that I've met in person, people that I haven't ever met in person, and then also, incredible friends in person that also translate to online. And I think that, at the end of the day, I think it's easy to look at entrepreneurs or business owners and see them like the brand, but there's a real person behind that. And so I think really getting to know the person behind, whatever brand it is, I think that's the key. And it's definitely easier to do that in person than online. But, one of my favorite things, like I'm in so many different masterminds and I've invested a lot in different coaches and mentors and programs. And I've bought those for my team as well. And I think that when you can be surrounded by like-minded peers and in a mastermind environment, whether that be in person or online or both, it really is a great opportunity because they're going through the same types of things that you're going through. They're learning. If it's more of an educational based like mastermind, they might all be learning the same curriculum, or it might be more networking focused and you're networking with other great people.
Yeah.
But I think that there's lots of opportunities with that. And but I do love the in-person events, and both ones that happen to be here in Austin. I travel a lot for different events, whether it's speaking or attending different events. And I think there really is that amazing part to in-person.
I would agree. My experience, and the reason I ask you this question is because you have such a deep understanding and experience of both. And at least from what I've seen, and you've probably mastered this being an online content creator as long as you have, that like the online content world and the parasocial relationships of someone kind of knowing you for your content or the things that you post. And I've done a terrible job of this. I'm very inconsistent with creating content and posting my content but something I've noticed is that building an online reputation or a parasocial relationship, it's much more clear of a relationship and the expectations. And that can feel, for someone that hasn't created content, that can feel like a prison. It's like, oh, they only I want to talk about my love life and my goat yoga and my veganism. And all this person wants to know from you is YouTube ads, or all this person wants to know from you is tech reviews, or whatever the thing is. And so it can feel kind of transactional, or it can feel kind of constrictive, where but it's very clear, which I think is it's a double-edged sword where you can appreciate it of like, oh no, this is an opportunity for me to master a skill or to create, a certain, really dive deep into a certain industry or a certain niche or a certain conversation or topic, versus the in-person stuff. And what I love about in-person relationships is it's way less clear. And so it's like there's more opportunity for vulnerability. There's more opportunity for discovery and surprise and new things, versus, it's like the content stuff online is much, and I appreciate it in its own way of, at least in my experience, it's forced me to be a lot more articulate and thoughtful about what I'm presenting and how I'm showing up in the world. And but at least in my experience, I've found that people can look at either side as negative, of like, oh, people judge me for who I am online, or I'm forced to be a certain type of person online. It's like, it's not a bad thing. It's allowing you to curate who you want to be in the world. But have you found that spending so much time creating content, and because you're very articulate online, and I think people, you're very well known, you have a very strong reputation on the internet, do you ever feel like that constricts how you show up in the real world and in your day-to-day relationships?
That's a really good question. I would say I don't feel that now, and I don't really think I've really felt that in general, because I've built a brand around who I am. And I think that where people feel that constriction is when they have maybe built a brand that isn't authentic to them. And I also don't think it's too late to change, for people to change, but the brand that I've built is who I am. Like the conversation that we're having now, maybe I'm emphasizing certain syllables and being a little bit more articulate, but it's the same type of conversation that we would have. And this.
We've had these conversations.
Yeah. The same thing with you.
Lunch
the way that you show up here is the way that we show up. You show up at lunch too. And, and at different events, internet marketing party, and then also on Instagram. And yes, the way you're talking might be optimized for the algorithm. So
for sure. Yeah. You might play it differently, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the same thing. So you might have a hook at the beginning of your Instagram video, but then it's still going to be you. You might introduce yourself differently in person at an event versus a podcast versus at lunch, but it's still you. Same thing with me, right? So, there's not a difference in the way that I'm showing up, and I'm being authentic to myself. And I think that's really the key to not feeling that kind of pressure, is just being yourself.
Yeah, and I think like it's a very fine line to balance though, right? Because it is like on the one side is like building a brand that's authentic to who you are and building a brand that is you, while also if it's a business investment of like I'm building a brand to convert clients or to like if I have a roofing company or a marketing agency, how do I create content that's authentic to me but is also marketing content?
Well, hopefully you're passionate about what you do.
That's obviously
and again, or maybe if it's a roofing company, maybe you're passionate about the business of roofing. Maybe roofs aren't your favorite thing, but like, going through the business side of it. So maybe document a little bit of that journey.
Yeah.
Right. And, and then again, like it's not that you have to share all the different aspects. It's just, you are authentically yourself in how you show up. And, so for me, I love escape rooms, and I'll talk about that. I'll mention it on a podcast. I'll occasionally talk about, but I'm not creating a ton of escape room content. That's not what's going to convert YouTube clients, but I'm also not going to hide that. I'm a little bit, nerdy with escape rooms and board games. I know you love board games as well, and stuff like that. So it's like one of those things that is just, I'm not going to, hide that. But I'm also not going to, just create content.
My 5 favorite things about escape rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that, and also being authentic is also how you show up. And, I am not trying to portray myself in a different way, because I think that also you talked about the flashiness. Like there's people that are trying to be flashy online, but in person, like they're just like any of us. We're having conversations and it's like, hey, you're kind of not really like this. Like, why are you trying to be this other person? They think they need to be that to get the results that they get. And then vice versa, you have people that are trying to portray a way online and then, they haven't really done some of the inner work. Yes. And we know that. And there's people that are just, I don't know, they're not really treating people, the way that they'd want to be treated. And when that's the case, that's also that inauthenticity, it's going to kind of come out somehow. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of more of what I'm talking about. It's not that you have to talk about all the different ins and outs of everything that you like. Hopefully you're passionate about business and all those things, but I think it's really aligning who you are, and the other thing is I'm not going to say who this is, but I've met somebody who is a relatively flashy person, but they're also a good overall, like you can tell even in their content or in their, day to day, that it's just kind of who they are.
Yep.
And it's actually authentic to them.
I have a friend like that.
Yeah. And then you go and it's like, oh, we're at a mastermind and he's buying everybody dinner.
Yep.
And it's a fancy dinner. And he's wearing a fancy watch. And he's got like the fancy cars and all that stuff. But he's also like,
that's who
not
he is.
Trying to pretend to be somebody else. That's who he is. And he's also both in that, in his in-person interactions and the way he's doing it online, it's nonchalant. It's not, I have this, you don't, I'm better. Mm-hmm. It's, no, this is just my lifestyle. And that's how he lives his life. And so I think that's like, there's authenticity in that too. It might not be how either of us like live our day-to-day life, but there's authenticity in that. So I think it's just not trying to be somebody that you are not and just leaning into who you actually are.
I think I've been pondering a lot of like the difference between aesthetic and taste. Of like, it's very easy to create a good aesthetic, but it's very hard to like curate taste for something. And like the difference being the person that wears this type of Rolex because it's trendy or because it's this thing versus they wear this specific Rolex because it's tasteful, because they understand the history and the culture and the story and it's significant. I've got a good friend of mine that wears a $35,000 Rolex daily and he'll like wear it to feed the homeless people. And it's not a thing of like, oh, look at this thing on my radio. He bought it for himself at a huge milestone after, quitting his job and building his business, living on a futon for 6 months. That watch means a lot to him. And also he appreciates the culture and the significance behind it. So I completely agree. And I think this also kind of highlights like the whole, like, what does it mean to be authentic on the internet? Like, I think that creating content has become the next dimension of like self-discovery of like, I went through the phase of like trying to be flashy in my content. And I've also gone through phases of insecurity and over exaggerations. Like, I think that's kind of part of the process, but the goal is to like be as close to authentic as possible the whole time. While also like at the end of the day, like this is just like the gym. This is something that you're doing no matter what. And so it's like you go to the gym and one guy might wear no shirt, another guy might wear a muscle shirt, and another guy might wear a hoodie, but you're all still doing the reps. And so it's like if you have a roofing company, making content that is directly related to your business is the most important thing. Now, whether you do that while standing on the roof or in front of a computer or in front of a Lamborghini, like that's up to you. That's the part that you can kind of personalize. At least that's what I'm understanding.
Yeah. As long as it's congruent with who you are and the way that you show up. And again, like it doesn't have to be, but I'll tell you, it's a lot easier and people can read it. They can read into that authenticity. So like who are you? Are you the person that's up on the roof? Are you the person that maybe is a little bit more flashy and you're kind of more of that, that's just how you live and you're just showcasing that? Or are you the person that is maybe at the desk and like crunching the numbers and like loving the analytics of how the roofing business is doing?
Dude, I'm such a big fan of that word congruent. I was just talking to my roommate about this. Thanksgiving. I had Thanksgiving dinner with a couple of buddies of mine, and we played chess for like 4 hours. And the same buddy came over one night. It's like a Saturday night, and we just solved logic problems on a whiteboard until like 2 a.m. It was like the best night of my life. And I'm like realizing that like I think these expectations that I've created for myself based on content of like, oh, this is the type of person that I need to be. And that's incongruent with who I actually want to be. And so it's like the who I want to be is like this, logic problems at 2 a.m. and playing chess on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then you pigeonhole yourself into like these false expectations of like what the internet has told you, what Andrew Tate has told me I need to be in order to be successful. Speaking of successful, what are some of the things in your personal life that you do that make you feel successful or just grateful to be alive?
Yeah.
You talked about escape rooms.
A really good question. Yeah. So, of course, there's things along those lines, escape rooms and board games and time with family and friends. I love traveling as well, which is really great. Exploring new places, whether it's for a business trip or else, or like a vacation, I mean to say. And then, also the different things I do, personally as well. So, fitness, workout multiple times a week. I've got a personal trainer. I'm building that, more and more. Love seeing, different friends and things like that. I'm also, growing my faith as well, and pursuing my relationship with God and going to church and growing in that side of things as well. There's a lot of gratitude. I think that one of the things that I've looked at is like it's easy to take things for granted, but I think having the gratitude for everything that you have and how it's been blessed upon you, I think is really valuable to think about and acknowledge, especially as we're building businesses. What's the impact that we want to create? So one of the things that we do as well is we also have a focus on a ripple effect of impact. And so at Ad Outreach, our mission is to empower businesses to amplify their impact and create a positive ripple effect on the world. That's our mission. You notice how I don't say like YouTube ads, like help it's like, no, it's to empower businesses to amplify their impact. Now, how we do that? Video
YouTube
marketing,
ads,
right?
Yeah.
And YouTube
That's
ads.
the vehicle.
That's the vehicle. And then create a ripple effect, a positive ripple effect on the world. Well, we want to work with clients that are doing good in the world, right? And it doesn't have to be that they're, the person who's, specifically doing something that's maybe charitable or doing something that's like, more like health and wellness related, although we do have clients that do that. But just in generally, like, they are helping out other people, even the roofing example, right? Like, if you're doing a great service to help people, with their roof, and that's literally the roof over their head,
Yes.
And so that's creating a positive ripple in the world. And then the other way that I've, kind of gone into this too is by, we have kind of an initiative as well with, we've partnered with a company, B1G1, which is like buy one, give one. So they're really popular for like, you buy like a pair of socks, they give a pair of socks. That being said, for service businesses, they have a process that, you can actually do micro impacts every time something happens. So every time we get a new lead in the business, every time we get a new phone call booked or client, something good happens, right? So we actually have, they have Zapier automations that are built in automatically. So essentially, we can give a week of clean drinking water every time. And I think it's actually might be multiple weeks, but like every time a new lead comes in,
or
right?
call is booked.
Exactly. Every time a call is booked, there's a certain amount of food that's given, and
so awesome.
Meals to the homeless, and then and it's automated through this platform, B1G1 platform. And so already so we review the numbers on all of our different huddles, and we can see.
Do you as a company give away a percentage of revenue like that?
Not formally, but it kind of is based on this. But it's not a formal amount. But we might going into next year formalize that a little bit more. But it is definitely it is a percentage of what we're bringing in. Definitely in the percentages of profit. And then I haven't really formalized exactly what that is. And we also have a profit share with our team members as well. And so, but yeah, it is done automatically. And so I'll do a live stream, I'll do virtual events. And one of my favorite things is all right, type impact into the chat. And we donate a week of clean drinking water for everybody that types impact. And people spam it, they're impact, and we're we're counting all those.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Engagement farming 101.
Yeah. Well, but
so awesome.
in a good way. And then we literally go in and we just do our donation and so, and the team gets really excited about that because we can see our revenue numbers, our profit numbers go up, and we can also see the impact that we're creating going up as well.
I think that's the most beautiful, and that's, I think, what it means to run a successful and legitimate online or content-based business is we were even talking about giving away, you have your YouTube video or your YouTube ad that goes to a video sales letter or a video conversion. You send them to a VSL and then you send them to a call. And what I loved about what you said is we're not trying to sell something at the end of the VSL. We're just giving them a strategy session. And when you're running a legitimate business, these sales calls are with professionals that actually know what they're talking about and aren't just there to get a commission, but they actually care about the best interest of the customer. And you have a business that is using some of its revenue. Even if donating clean water it's a growth hack. You're engagement farming in the chat. Yes, you're on a webinar, and yes, you need people engaged. And also it comes to a net benefit of society.
Yeah.
And that's where it's now you're not just playing this me game. Yeah. Now it's no longer about your sales guys just getting a commission. It's no longer just about them typing something in the chat so that they retain their attention so that they convert better. You're actually okay, how can we just tie these little micro moments of of into what we do? There's a roofing company here in Austin that I really love. It's a Christian roofing company called Good News Roofing.
Oh, awesome.
And their entire team is Christian. And so they do stuff like that where they'll pray over the roof of the house. And they do a lot of these same type of these micro moments. And I think that's what it means to really have a good culture is it's you're doing something bigger than just getting someone to type impact in the chat or just book a sales call with your team. Genuinely you're invested in something greater happening, which is a pretty radical thing in and of itself. Do you feel like there's anything missing from your company culture in terms of is there anything from your personal life or who you are that you want to introduce to your company?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. We've definitely introduced a lot of great things, with the company and the focus on impact. We do we do something called Caught Being Awesome, so we have Monday. We used to do daily huddles, then we did weekly huddles, and we've now found bookending it Monday, Friday, because daily got a little bit, too much, but weekly wasn't quite enough. So we actually do Monday and Friday bookended huddles.
Are these all hands?
Full all hands.
How big is the team?
About 25 people.
Okay.
Yeah, about 25
Amazing.
people. So some departments like sales do every day.
Yep. Yeah.
But in terms of all hands for the entire team, we do Monday, Friday. And so, today we had our, we call them our huddles, but we have our all hands. And one of the sections is Caught Being Awesome. And it's where our team members shout out other team members for things that they were caught being awesome in, which, by the way, every time that happens, we also donate another week of clean drinking water.
Let's go.
And actually clean drinking water, and I think also a week of food. So we do those
awesome.
two. And anyway, so we all share our Caught Being Awesomes with, the things that are, we caught other team members doing. And today we had a record of the most. We literally had 43 of these shout outs. We have 25 people on the team.
Yeah.
We had 43 shout outs, or 43 people mentioned. So some people will say, I want to shout out this person for this person for this, this person for this.
Yeah.
But it creates a culture of actually acknowledging and shouting out other people. And, we're all just naturally, we want to step up to do the things, the best things, for our clients, for our company, for each other. But it's a way to acknowledge that and bring that together. And that's a really big, so I didn't answer the question. That's actually something that we do that's really good. I think
that's incredible though.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody should have that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. One thing that we're not doing as much as we used to, is virtual team activities. And that's something I want to do going into next year, is do that more consistently each month. At one point we were doing it very consistently each month, and then the person who was like organizing that, left. And then we kind of sporadically had done it. And especially with traveling and different things, like I always saw the value in it, but sometimes it's hard to like book it and coordinate.
For
and
sure.
like, and we've done a few recently. And now that we've done some more recently, I see, oh, wait a second, this is why we're doing it. It's not just so that we play like a game of Jeopardy with us and like we're, and there's a company called Confetti. It's pretty good company. They just basically organize these like team games, and it's not that expensive. It's like $100, couple $100, and they'll literally have a facilitator there. Everything's out of the box. You don't have to reinvent it.
Just show up and hang
you
out
show
with the
up
team.
and they're like, all right, we've got our team Jeopardy or it's not actually Jeopardy, it's like it's their version of it or whatever, trivia, or whatever. But
the team building activities.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think those types of activities have a benefit on the team and the company culture?
So I think that they do, when you do them consistently and when you approach them the right way, and also when you have kind of like a water cooler time afterwards.
Yeah.
So
you
do the activity and you don't just end after the activity.
Straight
you say,
back
all
to
right,
business.
let's you do it at the end of the day on a weekday as an hour in the day. So like at a 4:00.
Yep.
Right. So by the way, it's so funny. It's like, we have a formula for this. It's like, because we tried the different things. When you do it later in the day, there's a little bit of this, they either can't make it, or there's a little bit like, yeah, this is fun to do, but it's on my off time. So it's maybe not as fun as whatever they want to do themselves. So it's like, no, this is your, so doing
it's like a half day at school. It's like the best feeling.
And then
in the
not
world.
on a Friday, because, like
they have plans.
Yeah, they have plans. So really like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 4:00, and then you schedule it in for an hour and you do an hour afterwards of like water cooler, hang out. And then that goes into like the 5 to 6. So some people hop off.
Yeah.
But basically that's what we found. And then you use a company like Confetti to organize it, instead of just, because then at one point we were trying to do our own things, and it was just like, then somebody had to own it and had to be, it's like, no, you just got to delegate.
And then there's a point of friction, and it's like for $150 or $200, whatever it is, and we all get to share this experience. Like that's cheaper than throwing a pizza party. Like let's just do this. It's
simple.
For
for your online team, and you invite everybody there, and you really encourage people to be there, and and then And it builds over time. You don't see the benefit the first time that you do it. You see the benefit from doing it more and more, because you just see a different side of people, and you're laughing together and you're having a good, thing. And then the conversations afterwards, if you're like, hey, everybody, let's get together for a water cooler talk. People are like, what are you talking about? Versus, oh, we just did this fun activity. Let's now just transition to this Zoom. And as long as we want to go, and sometimes they only go 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but however long you want to go, just continue the conversation from
it's
that.
It's still awesome.
It's fun. And it just.
I think that there's something really special about like that my favorite days at school were the half days, where like you have the field day in the afternoon where everybody goes out and they play kickball or whatever it is. And it creates a culture, and it's a sigh of relief. It's a breath of fresh air. And it's like, wow, that feels really, especially rewarding right after a big project or right before a big project. I really like something that 3M does. I really like this policy that 3M has, where I think it's 10 or 20% of all employees' time is allotted for whatever project they want to work on. And it's completely whatever you want to do, you're allowed to do. And the only requirement is you have to tell your manager what you're working on, and you have to update them. But you're completely allowed to have whatever creative control you want. And that's where like Post-it notes came from. It's like some random engineer was just twinking about in his free time, and he creates this thing. And so I think that this type of company culture where you foster like dynamic community activities or free opportunity to explore different things, and then also fostering the acknowledgement culture of this copying awesome, where you just highlight the different successes of different people. I think that creates a positive feedback loop, really good for culture. And the reason I'm so curious about this is because you've been able to successfully build there's some survivorship bias here. If you've built an exceptionally successful business in an incredibly competitive industry, and you've been able to stay on top across a lot of different, like, we know that you're not the best at YouTube ads because of a certain format. Like, you're not just riding some trend. You've been killing it at the top of this game for years and years and years. And so I'm curious of like these types of questions about culture and how you approach this, because it's very different than, I think there's different companies like Andy Elliott's or Alex Hormozi's or Andrew Tate, all these different, like the individual is kind of reflected in the company culture. Mm-hmm. Like the Alex Hormozi, just do more, better, new. Or the Andy Elliott of you better have a six pack. Like, don't come to work if you binge ate last night. Or the Andrew Tate of like, if you don't have 5 girlfriends, don't even apply to work for me. And I appreciate this like expression that you have into your company of like the puzzle solving and the inquisitiveness and the positive feedback loops. Would you highlight or attribute your success to that type of culture, or what kind of approach in business that you've applied both personally and with your team would you attribute the success of the business to?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. I think it's a culture of win or learn. And I actually I'll have to get you one of these. That's your copy of the book, but I'll get you one of the coins at some point. I've got a coin, and on one side it says win, on the other side it says learn. And I think it's just such a really valuable lesson to look at. Like anything that you do, you either win or you learn. It's either individually a success or you learn from it, you iterate, and you do the next thing. Because learning is winning. You've now learned, okay, this is a path not to do. Let me do a different path, or let me iterate this. And that mindset I've instilled across the team. It is a problem-solving mindset. I love escape rooms. So even though I'm not talking about that all the time, it's kind of funny. It's like, it makes sense. Like as entrepreneurs, we're solving problems all the time. But that's also a superpower that I have, that I focus on, that I also encourage my team to do. And we do it in a way that like we value and respect each other, and we share. It's like my team, I've got a fantastic team. We call them a dream team. It's cliche, but it really is. Like we have a really amazing team. I want to acknowledge the team for the great things that they do. I want to catch them being awesome. I want them to catch each other being awesome. And I also want us to celebrate the impact that we can create together. And I think creating a really good culture and giving the team, even things like time off, for Christmas. And like, that's something I really, deeply like believe in, is being able to give people time with their families and all of that. And, there's different company cultures that might be different, and that might work for them and the people that they attract. But I think the things that work for me and the people that I attract is this kind of win or learn, problem solving. Let's bring people together. Let's acknowledge the great things we're doing, and let's iterate when there's challenges, right? Yeah. It's a learning lesson. We're not glossing over that. What did we learn? That's something that we've learned. Now let's grow from it. And then where are our wins? What are our copying awesomes?
I think that really does create, like, especially YouTube ads by definition are an iterative game, right? And then the same thing with you, like your YouTube content, your organic content, where like you go from faceless app reviews all the way into, having a YouTube ad empire, where it's very iterative in nature. Like you test creatives and they fail. And having that like shameless environment of possibility, I'm sure also even creates really great relationships with clients, where it's like, okay, hey, we're going to test these 100 ads. Hey, great news. All 100 ads didn't return ROI. So guess what? We have 100 new ones, and this is what we learned.
Hopefully not, but
hopefully not. Yeah. But that's like a completely different relationship to have with a team member or with a customer or with a client or with yourself. Than the beat over the head. If I don't have a six pack, I'm not worthy of showing up. And I think it does, I think it translates out on a longer time horizon.
And more realistically, in that 100 example, more realistically, you're going to have 20 that totally bomb. They don't work at all. 20 that are really good. And then like 60 that are somewhere in between, which you can optimize. Well, obviously cut the bottom performers, optimize the other ones, and scale up the winners. But instead of saying, wait a second, only 20, only 1 in 5 was actually really good. I've got some that are average and then some that are below average, right? Like, it's going to be kind of like a bell curve. Well, you want to acknowledge, hey, we've got we learned so much from these ones that weren't good. The ones in the middle, there are opportunities to optimize. We also learned, these are kind of average results. And then our winners, we learned and won from those, and then let's scale those up. And so that's the more realistic thing. And it's the same thing with what we test in business too. Like there's going to be tests that work, tests that don't work, and we're going to scale the winners. We're going to learn from the others. But imagine a company culture where anytime something didn't work, people are like, how dare that not work? It's like, well, it's not all going to work. And how you treat that is going to really, say something about how your team interacts with you and how you're showing up. And so wouldn't you rather say, hey, great learning lesson, share it with everybody else. We learned that lesson. That did not work. What are we going to do differently? What are we going to iterate? Oh, that did work? That's a win. Let's do more of that, right?
Yep.
So
well, and that also creates a lot more of an opportunity for positive feed. Like it creates an opportunity where like there's no pressure on you to always be right, because you're in an environment where everybody on the team expects to learn no matter what. So you don't have to be a genius. And then it also impacts like longevity of the business, of like your employees guaranteed will mess up, at least in my experience. And I, as a leader, guaranteed will mess up.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, if I have this type of culture, then we can reset standards and expectations instead of creating narratives around it, which could be destructive. Yeah. So very, very, very different approach. And I really do appreciate that about you. Last question, as we kind of wrap up here. I don't want to, hold you prisoner in my basement for too long. I love having a podcast studio in my basement.
Oh, this is great. I feel like we could talk forever, but
dude, yeah, well,
great, a good jam. We'll have to have you on my podcast. We'll continue the conversation the other way.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll set up a camera and we'll just eat burgers at Caroline's.
Yes, oh yeah,
we'll
Caroline.
run that up. I did want to ask one more question. This book, Video Authority, The Art and Science of Converting Viewers into Clients. I'm sure the book is amazing, and everybody's going to click on the YouTube description and go buy a book, and they're going to order it on Amazon right now, and they're going to find it the most impactful book on YouTube content ever written. But the question I want to ask is a personal question. You've been writing this book for years.
Yeah.
This book, I think, in a lot of ways signifies or is like a capstone project of your career in terms of you started creating content on YouTube in middle school, right?
Yeah. When I was 12.
So 16 years later, you've built this agency and these software companies and all these different things in the YouTube space, and you've created Video Authority. The process of writing this book over the last few years, what has it taught you about yourself or shown you about yourself?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, because I poured a lot into the book, and I think that the thing that it taught me is that I have timeless principles and frameworks. And that's what had stopped me from writing a book before, was thinking that it was more tactical. But I actually have strategic outlines. So in the book, there are tactics that you'll learn, but it's also more based around the frameworks and strategies that have withstood the test of time. What are the things that worked even 16 years ago organically that still work today? What are the frameworks with ads that I started a decade ago that still work today? Yes, maybe AI ad hooks are new ways of doing ads, but the hook format has not changed. And I'll mention some of the latest stuff, and I'll also say, hey, there's more updates and different things, and and that's also the benefit of in the book. There's some accompanying trainings and a QR code, and I plan to update those over time. And I even kind of mention that in the book is that these are the timeless principles. This is what you can pick up this book today, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and it's going to teach you the strategies you need to know to succeed on video. And specifically YouTube, but these strategies can work different platforms as well. And I do talk about the benefits of YouTube. It's a fine line, right? Because I want to make it tactical and strategic enough for people to be able to apply it, but also be at a high level enough frameworks that it's going to withstand the test of time.
Right.
And that was what took me the longest with the book. The first time I wrote it was too tactical. Then I think I took away too many of that. And then the kind of final iteration was combining those pieces together. And I think what I've learned is, like the hook, educate, call to action framework, that framework's still going to exist years from now.
It's going to, yeah. It existed when we were writing on paper and stone.
Exactly. And I have my own unique way. Of course, I share all the different elements of it. There's other things I share in the book, around, okay, here's how to build a video tribe. Here's how to get people actually wanting to really follow you and engage with you. Here are the different, elements of video and, the connection and the community that you're building, the credibility that you have, the confidence of how you show up. It's different for, the C's of video. And it's kind of combining all these things together that, are all in one place to help you be able to understand, here is how I'm able to show up on video. With targeting, we can distill it down into reaching the right person with the right ad at the right time. Now, how do we do that? I, of course, talk about the tactics, strategies around how to do that and what's working today. And I also share the timeless principles you can use in the future. And I think that's the big thing that I learned. I also talk about the win or learn. It's an entire chapter in there. And I'm like, I know it's a book on video marketing, and YouTube ads and YouTube. But I think it's so important to have that as a chapter to talk about, hey, here's a foundational mindset. Because people ask, like, how have you been able to scale up your ads and your clients' ads so efficiently and hit these big numbers? And it's like, well, it's really win or learn and then double down on the winners.
Yeah, it's iterative by nature.
Exactly.
It's the same thing even like dating, relationships, escape rooms.
Yeah.
Right? It's like take the best educated guess available to you right now, and then with that new information, after following through on that guess, make a new one.
Yeah.
That's and I also love that your writing approach was like going like, this is what I'm known for. I'm going to be purely tactical and purely practical. And you get through it and you're like, wait a second, this is not a book.
Exactly.
And then you go back and you rewrite it and actually examine like, okay, how would I tell the story of telling the video authority story?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
In the nature of copying awesome, I want to acknowledge, thank you for FREEMONTH at keywordsearch.com. keywordsearch.com, FREEMONTH, all caps. And then the second thing that I think was really interesting and I want to acknowledge you for is, I don't know if you have formal media training or not, but you've done exceptionally well today to not throw stones at anybody in terms of like, I didn't notice you polarize or speak negatively towards any audience. And you articulated your points of like hook, education or story, call to action of like, it seems like you have this kind of ingrained in you, whether formally through media training or just through your personal experience. But I just want to acknowledge that the way that you engage and respond to a question is very thought provoking. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. And I also caught you being awesome as well. That's how we do it on our on our Zooms. Caught you being awesome. Just the way that you came in here. And one of the first things that you said, the cameras weren't rolling at this point, but you're like, how can I make this the most, impactful podcast for you? And I don't think really anybody's asked me that before. And I think that, and again, like I'm coming in here thinking about the viewer, right? And then of course I want this to be a great podcast for you as well. But just the fact that you're looking at the viewer, but you're also asking me that, and you knew that I had, the book out. Obviously we're friends, outside of this as well. But anyways, I really do, appreciate the way that you asked me that, and also the way that you've conducted this whole interview. Like you have a talent for this.
Thank you.
And I think the thing that's really powerful is you're not just diving into the strategies and the tactics, but you're really getting at the person, behind it. And I felt that with me. You asked me questions that went deeper and a true, genuine interest in what I'm talking about. And you really are that person for the audience. So I'd really encourage you to keep this up. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, next time I have you on, I want to know your thoughts on flat Earth and if we ever went to the moon. But we'll save that for next time.
Oh my goodness. This was setting the stage, and then the next one, it's like, all right, that's when it all changes.
Yeah, I'm very curious about your experience of flat Earth.
Oh my goodness.
Until next time, my fellow lizard people, like and subscribe. Aleric Heck, you've been a great guest. If you want to go find Aleric, Instagram and YouTube at Aleric Heck, that's ALERIC HECK. Got it right.
Oh yeah.
Got it right. Aleric Heck on all platforms. If you're an ignorant American, that's Aleric with one L, but Aleric Heck. And like and subscribe. We hope you love this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you next time. Peace.